I still remember the first time I laid eyes on him, though he didn't lay eyes on me. Connor Hayes, tech mogul media darling worth more money than my mind could wrap around. 10 years ago, he'd survived something in Tangier most people wouldn't walk away from. And for the last decade, he'd spent $35 million chasing a ghost from that night. That ghost was me. But to him, I was just the woman who came in through the service door every morning, dusted his shelves, polished his floors, and slipped out before the sun went down. The perfect maid, efficient, polite, invisible. I'd gotten good at that part. Being invisible. In my line of survival, invisibility kept you breathing. I knew his schedule down to the minute, Italian leather shoes hitting the marble foyer at 7:14, coffee in hand, eyes glued to market reports. He'd pass me on the staircase without so much as a nod, and that was fine. The less attention, the better. But Connor noticed more than I wanted him to. Oh, sis, ice, monsieurses. Not me exactly, but patterns. He'd pace his study more, lately clench his jaw when certain names came up, and sometimes he'd stare out at the Pacific like the ocean might give him back what he lost. 6 months into working there, I slipped up. I was in his study, dusting a high shelf when my rag caught on a canvas draped in cloth. I shouldn't have looked, but my fingers betrayed me. I lifted the fabric and froze. It was me, or at least the girl I'd been 10 years ago. Younger eyes, brighter, a half smile that knew more than it let on. The painting was unfinished, but his memory of me was painfully clear. I dropped the cloth and got back to work before the weight of it knocked the air out of me. That night, a storm rolled in. Most of the staff left early, but I stayed behind to clean up after a board meeting. He found me wiping down a table and asked how long I'd been there. 6 months, I said. Do you like it? It's steady work. That's not what I asked. It was the first time in months I'd looked him in the eye, and something flickered there, recognition trying to claw its way through. Then came Eleanor. New girl, pretty ambitious, sharp as a tack in all the wrong ways. She saw the bracelet on my wrist one night, the one he'd given me in Tangier, engraved in Arabic. Until we meet again. She started sniffing around like a dog catching a scent. When Connor confronted me with that bracelet a week later, the game was over. This inscription, he said, his voice low, I had it made once, only once. I lied, told him I bought it at a flea market. Tell me about the rooftop there, he pressed. The ladder by the seawall, the men with guns. My stomach dropped. He remembered more than I thought. And then I made the mistake of flinching when he said Victor Hale's name. That was it. He knew. I told him everything. That my name wasn't Lena Cole or any of the others I'd used. It was Zara Bennett. I'd been a federal witness in an international trafficking case. Victor Hale was at the centre of it, and the deal in Morocco that night he had been moving more than just goods. Connor had wandered into the kill zone by accident. I'd gotten him out. The FBI made me disappear because anyone tied to me was a target. I didn't plan to end up in his house years later. It was just a safe job in a place no one would think to look. But that night, Eleanor sold me out. Called Victor's people for a payout. They didn't waste time. Stormed the mansion with military precision. Guns, lasers, orders barked in the dark. And behind them, Victor himself dressed like he was heading to dinner instead of a hit. Hello, Zara, he said, or should I say, Lena. I'd been ready for this moment longer than I'd been ready for anything. What Victor didn't know was that the FBI had been watching his every move for months, waiting for him to slip. The second he stepped into Connor's house, I hit the panic button. Sirens wailed, red and blue lights cut through the rain, and his perfect little smirk cracked for the first time in a decade. He was taken away in cuffs, but that wasn't the end. Connor's company went into freefall. Headlines screamed about his secret obsession. The board called him unfit, pushed him out. Through it all, he stood by me, even when I told him it was safer if I ran again. I've already lost everything that doesn't matter, he said. I'm not losing you too. The trial was brutal. Victor's lawyers tried to paint me as a manipulative grifter, a con artist who'd played the long game. They dredged up every false name, every forged reference. And through it all, Connor sat in the front row, daring anyone to call me a liar to his face. When the guilty verdict came down, Victor's eyes found mine. There was no promise in them this time, just the dull acceptance of a man who'd lost the war. Connor could have walked away then, but instead he sold his mansion, poured $35 million of the same amount he'd wasted searching for me into a foundation for witness protection and recovery. He offered me half the control. We started a security firm on the side, one that hires from the very communities Victor's people once preyed on. Months later, a letter came from a woman we'd helped. "You saved my life without even knowing me." Connor framed it and hung it in the office, said it reminded him why he walked away from everything he'd built. 1 year after the trial, we stood together at a fundraiser. He gave a speech about seeing people not just looking at them, but really seeing them. He looked right at me when he said it, and for the first time in a decade, I believed it. We're not perfect, far from it. We've got scars, both of us, but they're part of the picture now. Not hidden, not shameful. And if you're wondering if we ended up together, I'll just say this. Some stories don't need labels to matter. So here's my question to you. How many people in your own life are you looking straight through right now? And what would you see if you finally stopped long enough to really notice? Tell me in the comments, because I promise you, sometimes the most extraordinary stories are standing right beside you, just waiting to be seen.